All right, I'm very excited to be joined by Kevin Egan, the studio host for MLS 360. Kevin, thank you so much for your time, man. And as a person that has a connection to Atlanta United, which we'll get into in a second, I'm very excited to be able to ask you some questions about this team. A very important offseason. What did you think about what this group looked like over the weekend?
I think what impressed me most, if I'm honest, was a sense that the vibes are back inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium again. Yeah, the defense could have been better. This team will leak goals and concede chances. I think we know that. It'll improve, you would think, this season under Ronnie Dyla. But man, they'll score goals. They will electrify. And with the five stripe faithful there, I expect that they'll show up each and every week and make sure that the vibes continue because it felt a little bit like we were back in 2018 again, especially seeing that big, beautiful smile of Miguel Almiron.
So you're somebody that knows that run pretty well. Please tell people a little bit about your history and your relation with Atlanta United.
Yeah, so now I'm the studio host, MLS 360 host for Apple TV up by New York. But I still live in the Atlanta region up in Roswell, and I was part of the team that won in 2018. Yeah, I was the first ever play-by-play commentator for Atlanta United in 2017, and remembered coming here to Atlanta, and I lived in Miami at the time, and not being too sure how the team would be received, and I was blown away by the Atlanta fans and just what took place over the course of 2 years with Tata Martino, Joseph Martinez scoring goals, Miguel's big smile and infectious enthusiasm for the game. It was just a joy to behold. And then obviously over time, coaching changes, player transactions, things haven't quite been the same. But I think this is the dawn of a new era with Atlanta United, with Latte Lat scoring a brace on his debut. Miguel back obviously brings back a big sensation and feeling for a lot of fans of the glory days of old. And I think this team is looking primed to really excite. Whether they go on and win remains to be seen. That defense needs to be shored up, but this team will excite and there'll be a lot of goals scored in every game.
We knew it was going to be a very important offseason for Atlanta United. Of course, they needed a new head coach and new sporting director. They had a couple of DP spots available. What can you say about the job that Garth Lagerwey decided to do with bringing in the pieces to fit in each of those different roles and how you think it'll work going forward?
Yeah, Garth Lagerwey had an awful lot of work to do in the offseason. When you consider that you needed a new head coach, he brought in a champion from 2021 with New York City in Ronnie Dyla. He needed a sporting director, found one in Chris Henderson, who saw tremendous success both out in the Pacific Northwest and then with Messi's Miami most recently. And now Chris Henderson comes here. They do a wonderful job bringing in Latte Lat for an MLS record reported $22 million. Miguel Almiron comes back to the club. And I think, there's been some under the radar signings like Pedro Amador, the left back, has been tremendous too. So the pieces seem to be coming together. The transfer window doesn't close until April 23rd, and Atlanta still has some wiggle room to make some moves and moves that could prove crucial come the end of the season.
When you compare, I mean, because of course you bring Miggy back, so a lot of the conversation is going to be comparing to the last time that he was here. Do you see any similarities between this group and that group? Of course, we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, right? That team won an MLS Cup, but this group seems to bring, like you said, some of that same vibe back, some of that same energy. What is it about this group that does that thing?
Let's touch on Miguel Almiron first. It depends how you view life right now. Are you glass half full or glass half empty? Because the glass half empty folks are saying, well, the sequel's never as good as the original. The jury's out on Miguel Almiron. He's now in his 30s. He relies on pace. But the glass half full folks are saying, hang on a second. He's just been playing over in the Premier League and doing really well. He's developed as a footballer. He's evolved. He's improved as a footballer. And I think you saw an awful lot of that. He still has the pace and power. He still has that sweet left foot. And now I think he's added a different layer to his game. If Miguel Almiron can avoid injuries, I think he's in the conversation for MVP come the end of the season.
As somebody who worked closely with the team and was here when Miggy was last year, what is it about him that makes him so special? You hear stories about his crazy work ethic. What can you tell us from behind the scenes about what makes him so great?
He's someone who lights up the room. When he walks into a room or walks out onto the pitch, he's always smiling. He enjoys everything there is to offer about life, and it's not just the footballer. He's a tremendous human being. From what I could gather, the interactions that we had, I always enjoyed. And then on the field, he's just one of these infectious personalities that he wants to be that blue collar hard worker. But then he's also got the silky smooth South American flair to his game as well. So he's got the full package. He'll score goals. He's selfless. He'll assist for Latte Lat, Saba, and Miranchuk. And he'll do the hard running for the team, close down defenders. And that's one thing Atlanta United fans crave. They want that blue collar, hard working player that's going to win the ball back higher up the field. I was going to say get the fans off their seat, but they're all off their seat anyway at the Bends, and then make something happen as quickly as possible for their team. He's a tremendous signing. And here's the thing, Reggie. Charlotte were rumored to be signing Miguel Almiron. That was
Mm.
never going to happen. Atlanta could never let their prince, Miguel Almiron, go to Charlotte. And Atlanta take on Charlotte this weekend in Charlotte. Can you imagine if Miguel Almiron scores the match winner?
That's going to be absolutely insane. I am curious also when there was a lot of money a record amount of money to try and get Emmanuel Latte-Lath, embracing his first start MLS. So far you're thinking this was a good signing, but then coming into it, a lot of people were saying if he's worth this much money, why was he not playing in the Premier League or anywhere else around the world? Why did he decide to choose Atlanta? So I think my question for you is why does he work so well here? And what is it about his game that, other than, of course, just the speed that's going to make him so, I guess, lethal on the squad?
Latte Lat was courted by Premier League teams, and he was in double digit scoring in the Championship. Anytime you're at that stage at the midway point in the season, the Premier League vultures start circling, and understandably so. But Atlanta put in a big time offer for him. I mean, think about this. Arthur Blank is, for me, the best owner in all of Major League Soccer. And he said, if this is our guy, let's go get him. Let's make a statement. It is an absolute statement. Yet again, Atlanta United with the record fee spent on a player in Major League Soccer. He comes in, he scores a brace on his debut. It's not that, though, for me. It's his work rate. It's his pace and his power, sure. But he's got a culture vibe about him that's going to be infectious within the team. He's full of smiles. He's celebrating like drinking the latte after scoring a goal. He's got that same infectious enthusiasm that Miguel Almiron has. And so often in sports today, advanced analytics seems to take over, and the personality is sometimes ignored. And you could spend major money on a player that could come in and be a cancer within a locker room. That's not what you're going to get with a guy like Emmanuel Latte-Lat, who's come in and he's working hard for the team already, and he seems to just bring a togetherness to the group that was missing over previous years.
I think it was interesting. We had conversations after training with a couple of the players who were talking about how, in the past, last year, you had Yorgos Giacomakis, who was a very good player, ended up, of course, moving on.
Mhm.
Emmanuel Latte-Lath is a smaller player, speedy, and they said it might end up fitting better. There have been some conversations about connections between maybe what he does and what Joseph Martinez used to do when he was a star here. Do you see any of those same kind of connections between these two players?
Absolutely, I do. I mean, it's hard. It's hard not to see that after week one. Latte Lat, first of all, he jumps like Michael Jordan. I mean, to
Yeah.
see the way he climbed to get his head on that ball from the corner was out of this world in a similar way to Joseph Martinez. Joseph had this unbelievable aerial ability for a guy who was only about 5'8". Latte Lat, it's that, but it's the willingness to connect with Almiron. Almiron's the key to all of this. He can tie the group together. He can help get the best out of Alexei Miranchuk, with a $12 million signing during the summer. Saba Lobjanidze, a big money signing as well. On paper, Reggie, this is the best attack Atlanta United's ever had. Now, can this team live up to what we saw in 2017, 2018, and 2019 when this team won MLS Cup, US Open Cup, Campeones Cup? But on paper, and given the money spent, this attack should be better, should score more goals than what we saw in the glory days. And if Latte Lat can produce half of what Joseph Martinez produced, well, that's still a big time success.
And I was going to say the feeling nationally around Atlanta United. What is the talk around MLS around this club? Is it because from here in town, as you know, since you live here, it's very exciting. People are very excited, but then you also try to keep yourself from getting too excited. What is the feeling around the rest of MLS around about this club and where they think they can be this year?
Here's the thing about Atlanta United from a national and international standpoint, right? You come in 2017, a blockbuster season. 2018, you go and win it all. You create that tsunami of momentum. Yet along comes LAFC when Atlanta United started to take a dip. LAFC started to steal a lot of that spotlight away. And then you bring in Miami and Messi. And I think it's very important Atlanta United starts to take that spotlight back again if they can do it. Over the weekend, we saw the third highest attendance in world football on Saturday, and that was at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So that's really, really cool to see. After Inter Milan over in Serie A and Borussia Dortmund in the Bundesliga, Atlanta United had about 65,000 people at the
Mhm.
Benz. That's only going to grow and compound over the course of the season as this team continues to score goals. So the swagger is back on the field, and just watch as the dominoes start to fall and people start to realize that the Atlanta United product that we saw in the past is back. It's only a wonderful thing for the league.
I think my final question is, you mentioned at the beginning the defense. Obviously, last year there was moments where this group would score and then end up giving up late goals, and it was a rough season last year. So I'm sure some fans and some people maybe nationally are worried about that same case being a problem again this year, despite the fact they're significantly more electric offensively. So what do you think that they need to do? What is the fix for this group? And is it just going to take more time to get guys together? What's the problem and how do they fix it?
I don't have a solution for this anytime soon. And I think so far, if I'm to be hypercritical of this Atlanta United group, is that I don't think the defense is fixed yet. And I still think they have room to bring in a player or two before the window closes on April 23rd. Brad Guzan, player of the year last year for Atlanta United, was exceptional. He's 40 years young now. Can he do it again? I know Brad well, and I know that when you doubt him, when you knock him, he comes out roaring. And he's the guy, I think, for the job. In front of him, that defense cannot be so porous. I thought Atlanta United would blow Montreal away, if I'm honest, at the weekend. It was anything but. Montreal came to play under their coach, Laurent Courtois. And remember, Reggie, they hit the crossbar with the final play of the game pretty much. It could
Mm-hmm.
very easily have been 3-3, and the vibes could be completely different right now. So Atlanta United need to improve in that area. But for me, Slish, as a holding midfielder, needs to have the season of his life. And defensively, this team needs to get an awful lot better to become a contender for MLS Cup.
All right, before I let you go, do you see this group as a contender for MLS Cup if it all kind of comes together? Do they have the pieces to get it done?
Atlanta United, for me, are a contender for MLS Cup if they get their defense right and if they stop conceding so many chances within games. For some reason, maybe it's the electric crowd all on their feet at the Benz. The games at Mercedes-Benz Stadium are always wild. It's a roller coaster of emotions, and I've not seen Atlanta United in recent years truly control a game where you felt like the game was nowhere near the opposition's control. And Atlanta United need to rediscover that element of control, stop conceding chances. And I think going forward, that's not going to be the issue. In 2023, Atlanta scored the second most goals in Major League Soccer, and they conceded the most goals of any playoff team. This season screams similarities to that in my mind. Hopefully, from a defensive standpoint, the team can lock it up a little bit more.
That's always the question. We'll see if they can do that. But like you said, the vibes are high and it should be super, super exciting. Thank you very much for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Cheers, Reggie. Anytime.